Hey, good morning, everybody. Charts are up. Yep. All right. Big days here. What we've been waiting for. The market's kind of been in its coma kind of thing, and not that much to go on here. I mean, just indecision everywhere. And I'm starting with SPX here. We'll look at the futures and everything, but um, the premiums are wide enough that I think today makes sense for an iron condor on these. I don't think it'll get to either extreme, but look, the coil is winding here. I mean, just look at the weekly chart. It's at the bottom of the range, so suggests it after that big reversal that it would go lower. If it breaks here, there is enough support here that I don't think it'll go that much lower on the announcement unless something crazy comes out. We all know the outside possibility is a point. The markets won't like it, but in a sense, how much worse can it get? I mean, in the short term anyway. So, yeah, 37.20. I mean, it's juicy, Jacob, down there. I've got 37.10 written down, but you see if anything's changed. Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has changed a bit. So 37.20, 90 by a dollar, or 37.15, 75 by 85. 40.15, 90 by a dollar. So to think, can it get all the way up here to 40.15-ish? That would be a monster move. I mean, a bar bigger than this one, certainly. I don't know about that one, but still a monster move to get all the way up there. And 4,000 is a huge level to get through. And of course, this should be a bunt to get if it starts moving to get through 3,900. The top of that green bar there just opens up the door to 37.50, really being the bunt. To get there should be no big deal. And then 4,000, it's just got a void above. It's just a big move to happen. And just looking at, I got the 180-minute chart here because the other day had to compress it to look further to the left there. But we kind of got a W, not kind of, I mean, a W with a bottoming tail that broke the lows and reversed back up again. So, that's a bullish pattern. Well, let's just say bullish in the very short term against a negative downtrend. And so the upside potential is there. And on the downside, say 37.20-ish would be a huge move to the downside. And we got bottoming tail down here, and of course this low. So look, I think it's possible to go obviously in either direction, but considering this move to the downside, it's holding this area. Like, I think if it hits 3,800, it could just bounce back up again. So it's in a sense not a no-brainer. It's just the distances are far enough away to consider either. I would say we'll get some movement in after the open here to see, some premiums pop a little bit below or above if it's going up. And if you read the news, Russian thing escalating a little bit more, Putin's comments, and initially a little move down and back up. So markets are kind of brushing that off as no big deal for the moment, and everybody's focused obviously on what the Fed is going to do. So where are they at? Nowhere, right? Basically nowhere. Just been flip-flopping back and forth and trading inside of yesterday's range. Still a scalper buy just based on pivot, red bar ignored, reversal. We can't have any kind of a meaningful commitment other than a scalp here ahead of the news. And, maybe it can come up and, you better be on your game and have your stops in as always, and have your method to hold on and manage as always. But it's not like we have a pattern where, hey, there's no news. Here's the pattern. This is the bias, and so on. So it is what it is. We'll see what today brings. And always we'll look at these other markets to see where they're at and any clues there. So, the NASDAQ not doing a damn thing, chopping sideways, and doing that in the face of interest rates continuing to go up, which kind of, there's the 3-month pushing up there, which kind of leads my thoughts anyway to it can't get much worse. But, we'll see this afternoon. That's gapping up. The Qs are sitting there, and tech is holding up for the moment. So, 5-year, gap down, back up again. Interest rates are pushing higher, and you look at the 10-year, and the market's held up yesterday, pushing up above 3.5%. So up near that pivot, pushing up above, it is a greater than 100% retracement, and that leads us to thinking that at a minimum, momentum should stall. And there haven't been any big bars. It's just been, what I refer to as a self-correcting uptrend. It's just a grinder to the upside as it just keeps marching its way higher. And, at this point, breaking a prior bar's low, our first reference point of support can't be that big of a deal because the next support is right underneath it and then underneath it. Whereas we have to look in a situation like this at the weekly charts and say, well, what does it take to trade under a prior bar's low on the weekly time frame? And it would take a huge move. So again, 2:00, Fed announcement. Which way is this thing going to go? It's already up a whole heck of a lot. Of course, it could go higher. It's not getting any guidance here, no matter where I look, other than indecision for the moment. And so far, market's holding here what it's focused on, what the Fed is going to say, because even with this bearish move up, continued bearish move up, the markets are ignoring it. So is the worst over? We'll see this afternoon. Hey, Russell, holding here at the lows, not going anywhere. Same pattern here, same pattern on the weekly. And, the Dow has been weaker. Let's see, it's up 100, but big deal. Just chopping back and forth here. And even when this took out a prior bar's high, it hit the next resistance and got knocked back down. And same pattern, it's holding here, same weekly, same everything, kind of boring. But that typically leads to some excitement. Bitcoin gave it all back. I think that's not a good sign, but holding support, same message. Silver, kind of like Stephen in the room mentioned something about the London market and some, I didn't catch that all, Steve, but I saw what you said the other day, which some manipulation going on here, but it's kind of odd that the dollar continues up, interest rates up, and silver sitting here with gold going in the other direction, which they typically move together. So something happening there under the surface that technically doesn't make sense. And, crude oil. I mean, the markets, no matter where you look, sometimes we say, hey, this market's not moving that I typically trade. Let me go look at another market. Patterns are patterns. I don't care what they are. You trade it. But nothing's happening here. And that's not good for us as those that are looking to take advantage of markets that are moving. Now, that isn't necessarily individual stocks. And, one of the things like over the weekend was like, okay, I don't find anything here. Let me go look at like the junk pile, so to speak, the low price stocks. And there's some decent patterns there in low price stocks. There's transports just clobbered, but on support down to the June, July lows, which, many analysts said, oh, that's the low. Well, let's see. That's a a monster move to the downside and big gap, which certainly opens up the door to some kind of counter trend move, coming all down to a low, but it can't get off the mat. And another thing that I mentioned kind of didn't make sense was the strength in these cruise lines. I kind of jokingly said, is the government going to be not storing, but placing all these immigrants, that they don't want in certain states, paying the cruise lines to put them all there? I don't know, but people spending money on vacations in the face of, hey, eggs and so on are, prices are going through the roof. I can't, buy the food that I want, but meanwhile, maybe the food's cheaper on the cruise lines. I don't know, or they're just giving it away. But kind of, we look for these intermarket relationships. And so just from I think, common sense point of view, why are people spending money on cruise line vacations? And when you've got, airlines kind of doing nothing but saying they're raising prices. Yeah, sure. We'll look at spiders. Yeah. I saw a picture, maybe it was on Facebook, and a joke was kind of joking that they're now all of a sudden they're building the wall there in Martha's Vineyard after this. So really, if it wasn't so sad, it'd be funny. All right, DB Puck, going to look at the spiders here, which we can see. Resistance, same pattern, just marching nowhere. So a bearish that this didn't follow through, but a gap down in reversal, which could have started some kind of a rally, but couldn't. The same message of uncertainty. Who wants to commit in front of the big news? So we don't have much going on. But that's would seem that's about to change. The weekly chart says, can you imagine this becomes a non-event, meaning the Fed announcement, and we end the week with a little narrow range bar, a 1, 2, 3 continuation down. But, the expectation is, which way is this thing going to go? Right. I don't know. The spring is being wound, and here we wait. And so maybe we're not going to do anything here, before that announcement here in the green room. We'll see. There ain't much happening. This little grind up here is just trading inside of this range. It's not like we have a gap down or a gap up and something to really go on, which leads us to, hey, be a scalper. Be a scalper, if you choose to, or do nothing. Some of these moves have been a little treacherous where they get going and whipping back in the other direction. But we've got a relatively significant resistance. But you know what? After news comes out like this, after things just gotten so tight, just, be aware that, while we look at a reference point of resistance, it might stall there and it could just rip right through it. And obviously there's plenty of room on the downside. And that should be the easiest path and the most opportune path should it go down there, because after such an extended move and then a continuation of the move coming down to a significant support level, it's like, hey, things are, I don't want to call them cheap, call them extended. It opens up the opportunity, if it can go down there rapidly, for a sizable bounce. And so that's what we'll wait to see. And, the VIX doing nothing. So the idea of moving to the downside being the least path for prices to go to, and the VIX going up, we've got the same type of a void here. So down below, it is what it is, I like to say, because no matter which way you cut it here, there's no clear guidance at the moment. So we wait until 2 and see which way things whip back and forth as they typically do. And then, we'll see. Want to see market reaction to 3/4 or 1%. Well, don't we all, DC? Yeah. And we'll sit here and wait. And so I don't have much more to go on here. Just things, as I said, not moving much. Currencies, which have been getting beaten down, just sitting here as well as the dollar goes up. Currencies to varying degrees on their own. They move accordingly. And you can see this has just been in a bear market downtrend, and it's stabilizing like everything else. And so some of you that might follow, I forget the guy's name, I could look again. He's pretty widely followed, CNBC, as far as ideas. He said something, bonds are amazingly cheap compared to the stock market. And when I took out of that, I could see, since interest rates are up and bond prices down as much, I could see that perspective. But the other side of it is the stock market, as much as it's down, and from his perspective, isn't cheap, right? And so if you go along those lines, it can get cheaper. That's it for me, Nan. All yours.
Good morning. Yeah, we predicted nothing going on here. Military, though, I think is the best looking long setups right now. We'll go through the whole list. We've been trimming our opens. They're all fine. I don't have any alarms going off. So yeah, we're just in waiting period. Yeah, a couple military here. And today's MT Live is speeding up the analysis with moving averages. So there's a couple of them here that have fantastic alignments. So one's GD here, you got a rising 200, rising 50. You got a bullish retest at the 50 and a gap up and a price void. So it'd be many, if it's a directional, I consider it a put spread in addition to a directional, provided the options are liquid, and Gulf Delta typically is not liquid, but LMT is another one I posted. So we're going to sell the 410s for Friday. And I just put an offer out at what I posted already, 75 cents, $10 wide, which we're pretty much only going to get filled on a pullback. RTX. That one's beat up more, no interest. Knock. I don't like the way this thing trades, but here you again, moving average analysis. Rising 50. I'm sorry, 250 trading range to get the 20 MA flat, downside shakeout, and it's a breakout on the daily and weekly. I personally just do not like overlapping charts like this, so I don't like this one, but we'll keep an eye on it. Gap breakout, and then Boeing is in there. We'll come back and scan the whole sector later. Free little battery thing. Every time we have an MT Live, my brain just kind of focuses on that subject in the morning. And so here's another one. You got a flat 200, and look at these railroad track 20 and 50 in an uptrend, showing relative strength. Now it's gapping up 14 and change. That could be a 30-minute high day trade. It's too extended for me, Thomas. I mean, it's down, I don't know, 8 bars. It's climactic, far from the 20. That's not my wheelhouse, as I say. I just saw Piton pop in here pre-market for some reason. I said yesterday, I have no idea where this thing's going. It's either going to build a base and try to put a floor here, or It might be headed to the graveyard and get cheaper and Amazon buy them out one day. I don't know. WDC had a downgrade yesterday, and I said, let's put this on our list as a Climo. And then today it got another downgrade. So they're piling in at the worst time. Well, I can't say it's the worst time, but it's using charts. It's not the ideal time to give a downgrade after being down from $50 to 35. Estee Lauder got an upgrade, 246. That could be a put spread for Friday. I don't know how liquid they are. And I'm going to be very selective on new trades here ahead of FOMC. I'm that LMT. If I get filled at 75, that is one I will hold based on the pattern. And with the Putin war picking up, you know, is the FOMC decision really going to negate this gap and trade under 410 by Friday? I don't know. Of course, anything's possible, but I'm an odds trader, and I'm willing to take that bet that it's not. ONB Fur gave me a couple of these yesterday into the close. Fur, it's a 1, 2, 3 that went a little bit more. I like this Folt. I like this Folt the best. I have an alarm already. That's a beautiful 1, 2, 3 from a W bottom at the 50. Here you go again. MT live today, moving averages. Look at it. Look at all these, and I have a chart where I'm going to pull the candlesticks off. And this would be another good example. Picture these moving averages without the candles. You got a flat 200, you got a rising 50. Well, let's start over here. You had declining 20 and 50. You can see the 20 got, you know, it expanded. You see the space here. And then the 20 crossed the 50, which doesn't mean anything, but I'm just talking trends. So now I got a short-term uptrend. It must have been a big move because it's curling the 50 up also fairly quickly. That's what this is telling me. The 50 is still up. Now I got converging. I mean, that would be a total long opportunity for me based on the MAs. And then I would say, give me a pattern to confirm that bias. And I have a pattern right there. Folks, I got a pattern, 1, 2, 3. So I'm gonna put that in a window, even though I have an alarm. PII, Grammy. Yeah, there's a number of these failed W bottoms with bearish weeklies, so that's not bad as a short. I like this one better than CME, Thomas. Do you see the reasons why? Because I have a failed green bar, I have a price void, and I have a bearish 1, 2, 3. So those are all the reasons I like better. GME, yeah, yesterday's low, sure. Yeah, GME. You said it right. Yeah, I mean, this is short, you know, kind of a little grinder here, so it might just stay in a trading range, but it's bearish engulfing at the 20. You know, see what the market does in FOMC. So I'm assuming that we're just going to be in scalping mode here, unless you want the risk. Yeah, there's another similar one to PII. Yeah, I'll put these on the list just so we have some go-tos. If we do say, hey, I do want to put on some swing shorts right now, we'll have a list to look at. All right, just had earnings. Put spread, you know, flat, you know, look at the moving averages again. So now this is a little breakdown failure with the gap up. So sure, let's put spread idea. I'll watch that at the open. it's a boring food company, so typically they aren't going to have a lot of juice. ACB, little marijuana company, just looks like garbage. SFix had earnings. I said I think this thing's do or die here. Look at that weekly chart. That's 30-minute low. I think that thing's toast. Denny's here, a couple watches from the green room. All right, I mean, there's just watches. I'm doing nothing here. Head of FOMC, swing lines. Okta's a dog. We used to say a dog with fleas. Remember that? If you were trading in the 90s, that's what they would say they would say that in the trading rooms. YouTube asking about Beyond. I mean, that's just a nasty, steady, relentless dumping. When you see selling that is just parallel to the declining 20, that is institutions just steadily feeding their shares out. That is not climactic. You got green bars ignored. You got shallow retracements. Look at moving averages again. 20, 50, 200. That's I think all-time lows. I heard on the news today or read in the paper, whatever, that their CFO, I would just, for beer happy hour talk, Rengen, wouldn't you love to be having a beer together and us hearing this true story of what happened? Like, yeah, this guy came up and spit on the COO at a bar and saying, "You're a POS. You don't know how to add 2 + 2." And then he's had a couple cocktails and he clocks them and bites his ear and gets arrested. I would love to hear that whole story. But yeah, the COO got fired. He bit someone's ear. Crazy things. Let's see, Rob asking me, is the best way to keep track of the weekly options trade to set alerts when I receive the letter and check the weekly option trade sheet? Well, the answer is yes, Rob, but Telegram gives you all the current adjustments, and then they are subsequently posted to the cumulative sheet. So yes is your answer, but just add Telegram into that. Glamis girl asking about Apple 150 put going down. So 150 put. So I mean, when you say going down, that's telling me that you have a bearish bias. I do not have a bearish bias on Apple. That was an amazing 2-day reversal, relative strength to the broader markets. So no, I at first I thought you were going to say, "Hey, should I short the 150s?" And then my answer was going to be, "Sure, if you don't mind the FOMC risk." BBBY, Lauren 6 just looks like a dead animal. I have no interest in that. My fault alarm. All right, so if the market decides to have some morning strength, then you can buy a 5-minute high on this. Start off with a day trade, and then you decide on your own later if you want to hold it. All right, this LMT. All right, I'm obviously not filled yet. The spreads are asinine. The 410s are 5 cents by 110 now. All right, so I'm gonna tell our weekly options to hold off just because I'm gonna keep mine out there because I trade some more illiquid things. But that's a beautiful example of news, having the market makers just hit the sidelines and not do anything. Gulf Delta. All right, this GIS, GIS, there's no weeklies. And there's no juice. Gulf Delta, as I said, is typically very spready, but the 200 MA would be a no-brainer. The 222s naked are 30 by $1. So what I'm gonna do is try to go naked at 90 cents. See if I get filled. All right, I mean, expect total nervousness here today, this morning. The spiders broke out and got slammed here on a 5-minute chart. Broke out pre-market. Look at this marijuana. Incredible weakness. Yeah, it's not bad. Start with a day trade, Thomas. Yeah. And a breakout failure.